The locked room had not been opened for weeks, and when a German prisoner was seen being dragged away from its door before sunrise, the guards claimed it was only storage. But a smell of burned paper came through the cracks, a hidden key vanished from the office hook, and by noon Patton's staff car was tearing through the camp gate because whatever had been kept behind that door was suddenly more dangerous than the prisoners outside it. The first alarm came before breakfast, when a kitchen prisoner dropped a tray near Barracks 4 and pointed toward the old records room behind the administration shed. A German prisoner named Lucas Brandt was being pulled away from the door by two American guards, his hands empty, his face pale, and his work coat torn at the pocket. The guard said he had been caught wandering outside his assigned area, but the camp clerk noticed soot on Lucas's sleeve, even though no stove was near that side of the yard. The captain ordered Lucas brought to the office, yet one guard quickly stepped between him and the door, insisting the room held only old files and broken furniture. That answer made the captain look toward the office key rack, where the small brass key for the records room was missing from its nail. The captain stopped the morning count, locked the inner gate, and ordered every guard who had access to the office searched before the work details could leave. The prisoners watched the delay spread across the yard, and the interpreter heard several men whisper that the locked room had been used at night when the camp lights were dim. A military policeman checked the door and found fresh scratches around the lock, plus a thin line of ash under the threshold. When the captain demanded the room opened, the quartermaster claimed the key had been misplaced during the previous week's supply inspection. The captain did not believe him, because the smell behind the door was not dust or damp wood, but burned paper. Before noon, he sent a message to headquarters reporting a missing key, a sealed room, and a prisoner caught outside a door no one wanted opened. Subscribe for more forgotten German POW stories like this one. The escalation began when military police arrived with bolt cutters, but the quartermaster suddenly produced the missing key from his desk drawer and said it had been filed by mistake. The captain ordered him away from the door before he could touch the lock, then told the MPs to open it in front of witnesses. Inside, the room was not filled with broken chairs, but with stacked crates, loose papers, a scorched metal bucket, and several German prisoner files spread across the floor. One MP kicked the bucket aside and found half-burned forms inside, with prisoner names still visible along the edges. The clerk recognized the forms as complaint slips that should have been stored in the commandant's office, not hidden in a back room. Lucas was brought to the doorway under guard, and when he saw the burned papers, he told the interpreter he had slipped near the room because he heard his own name spoken inside before dawn. That statement shifted the case from missing paperwork to possible retaliation because several complaints involved guards, work assignments, food shortages, and unexplained punishments. The MPs searched the crates and found confiscated letters, Red Cross parcel notes, medical requests, and prisoner statements that had never reached the captain's desk. The prisoners outside began crowding the fence when they saw documents carried out in evidence bags, and the guards had to push them back before anger spread. Then the doctor identified 3 medical requests from sick prisoners who had waited days for treatment while their papers sat hidden in the locked room. The captain ordered the room sealed again, not to hide it, but to preserve it, and he placed an outside MP at the door. By evening, headquarters had been told that the locked room contained buried complaints, burned records, and evidence that someone had been deciding which prisoner voices disappeared. The major consequence came the next morning, when the captain suspended the quartermaster, removed 2 guards from prisoner contact, and ordered all complaint records reviewed in public before selected witnesses. Tables were set near the administration shed, and the recovered papers were sorted by type, while the interpreter read only enough to identify each missing case. The first case belonged to a prisoner who had requested medicine for a fever and was later marked as refusing treatment, even though his original request had been hidden. The doctor corrected the record immediately and sent the man to the infirmary, where he received the medicine that should have reached him days earlier. The second case named a guard accused of taking mail from prisoners who reported rough treatment, and the mail bundle was found inside one of the crates. Several prisoners rushed toward the fence when letters appeared, but the captain ordered each envelope checked, listed, and returned directly to its owner under guard. That moment changed the compound more than any announcement, because men who had believed their families stopped writing now saw their letters had been trapped behind the locked door. The third case involved a work crew punished for refusing unsafe tools, and the broken tool report had been burned almost completely in the metal bucket. The captain ordered the work crew cleared of the charge and reassigned under new supervision, which angered the guards who had used the missing report to blame the prisoners. By afternoon, the locked room had become the center of the entire camp, and every recovered paper created a new correction, a new witness, or a new accusation. The consequence was no longer only about one hidden room, because the camp's official records could no longer be trusted without review. The captain prepared the surviving papers, burned fragments, missing mail, and medical requests for Patton, knowing the next decision would expose someone on his own side. The prisoners expected another paperwork officer, and the guards expected a quiet inspection behind closed doors. But just after noon, Patton's staff car shot through the gate and stopped so sharply that dust rolled across the tables of recovered files. Patton stepped out with his gloves in one hand, passed the waiting officers without greeting them, and walked directly to the locked room while the entire yard turned toward him. The captain began explaining, but Patton cut him off and ordered the door opened before another word was spoken. He entered first, looked at the burned bucket, the empty crates, the scratched lock, and the papers laid out under guard, then called for Lucas Brandt to be brought forward. The reversal began when Patton did not question the prisoner as a suspect, but made him stand beside the door as the first man whose warning had prevented the evidence from vanishing. The quartermaster expected the investigation to focus on German complaints, but Patton ordered the recovered prisoner files compared against the official ledgers in front of American officers. One by one, missing complaints matched altered entries, proving that the room had been used to bury problems rather than store old records. Patton then ordered the confiscated letters placed on a table and made the officer in charge watch prisoners receive mail that had been hidden from them. The yard changed when a German prisoner opened a letter and began shaking so badly that the doctor took him aside, because his wife's message was weeks old. Patton turned toward the American staff and said the locked room had not protected discipline, it had protected cowardice. He ordered every complaint system rebuilt outside the control of the quartermaster's office, with a locked box at the infirmary and daily opening witnessed by an officer, doctor, interpreter, and prisoner representative. The reversal was complete when the room no one was allowed to enter became the room every guard had to see before returning to duty. The final irreversible event came that night, when a clerk found the quartermaster trying to pass a folded note through a kitchen worker before the formal hearing began. The note instructed one of the suspended guards to remove a second packet from the fuel shed and burn it before sunrise. Military police searched the fuel shed immediately and found a cloth bag hidden behind coal sacks, containing more complaint slips, a private guard list, and 3 unsigned transfer requests. One transfer request named Lucas Brandt, which showed he had not wandered near the locked room by chance, but had been marked for removal before he could speak. The captain ordered Lucas moved to protected housing near the infirmary, while the quartermaster and the 2 guards were placed under armed confinement. At sunrise, a military truck arrived to take them away for formal investigation outside the camp, where they could no longer control records, witnesses, or access to prisoners. The prisoners were not allowed near the gate, but the barracks windows remained uncovered as the men who had hidden voices behind a locked door left under guard. After the truck departed, the captain ordered the records room emptied completely, the lock removed, and the door taken off its hinges in front of the compound. The burned bucket was tagged as evidence. The recovered letters were distributed, and the surviving complaint slips were copied into a new file opened under Patton's order. By afternoon, the first notes dropped into the new infirmary box, and the interpreter read them beside the doctor while an officer recorded each one. The room's purpose ended permanently because it could no longer swallow paper, names, or warnings. What had been a locked space became an open evidence room, and the camp learned that a closed door could be more dangerous than a raised rifle. A week later, the doorway behind the administration shed still had no door, and every guard passed it on the way to duty. Lucas received the letter that had been held from him, then signed the new complaint record as a witness instead of a suspect. When the captain filed the final report, he attached the burned fragments, the hidden transfer request, and Patton's order, then wrote that the camp had changed the moment the forbidden room stopped being private. Most people know how World War II ended. Very few know what happened inside these prison camps. Subscribe for more untold WW2 stories.